guys, how's it going? We're out in the studio working on a few things today. I want to give you an update tour on how all of our seeds are doing. I started a bunch of hardy perennials early, hoping that they would be grown on enough by maybe the first part of March to pot up and put out in our heated greenhouse, which we're not heating that warm, but it's going to be warm enough, I think, to grow on the hardy perennials. And that way it will free up growing space in here under the lights for more tender things. We do need to do a little bit of maintenance after the tour. So I need to do some thinning and dividing. I need to hand pollinate our Navel orange tree in here. It's blooming and smells lovely. And then I got a hold of the sweetest tete-a-tete daffodils yesterday. So we're gonna pot those up. It's gonna be a really fun afternoon out here. Here's a backed up look at our growing setup. So you can see the 3 grow light stands right here. I don't have too many seedlings over here yet, basically just this one shelf. I will be reorganizing these plants though very soon because I think I'm going to be using all of the space for seeds starting here pretty quick. And then as we swing around to this side of the room, you can see some more grow light stands. I actually have a couple more coming from Gardener's Supply I'm super excited about. I've got a couple of the bamboo LED grow light gardens that are a little taller so that I can fit citrus and stuff like that in them, which is going to be so nice. This is our Navel orange right here. So we'll be working on that here in a minute. We're gonna hand pollinate that. Look at all those blooms. It's so gorgeous. I've been hand pollinating along the way. Every single day I do it until all the blooms are gone. But this is where most of the seedlings are right now. So this whole stand right here, we've got the African violet sitting down here and then a few trays there. Let's start with this shelf first because these have been growing on the longest. I'll talk about my fertilizer schedule as well as some insect issues I've been dealing with here when I'm all done. But the basil here, as well as the tomatoes, peppers, and cucumbers have been growing since I think the end of November. Sweet Italian or Genovese basil looking like the picture of health. I planted these really thickly, kind of microgreen style, just to see what they would do, clearly loving it. I had a tray of dill sitting next to the basil. I already used all of that because it was overgrowing its container, but it worked great to do it microgreen style. We've got good-hearted tomatoes sitting here in individual containers. I potted those out of this tray because it was getting a little congested in there. So I figured just to increase airflow around each plant, it would be better just to get a few of them out, but I'll be working on this tray today and potting these out because like this cucumber needs to be potted up. This is too small of a cell for it to be in. So green finger cucumbers, I had 2 plants come up in 1 cell. All the rest of them didn't germinate. So I dug this one out of this cell and planted it here. It shocked a little bit. It has kind of come out of it though and starting to grow, so that's great. Peppers, we've been dealing with some aphid issues. I think we've got it handled, but you can kind of see like toward the center where they were. Anyway, we've got 2 lemon-drop hot peppers right here out of 4. We have 4 baby bell peppers, and then in the back there we have 2 Campari and 4 evil olive tomatoes. I didn't start running the fan on these until they were fairly good size, so they're starting to beef up a little bit and strengthen up. But that's so important with new seedlings to have some kind of a fan blowing on them at least a few hours a day. And right here we have Shades of Summer Verbascum, beautiful flowers. Most of the cells are up, even if like this little seedling is super tiny, but we'll give it some time. There's a couple of cells that didn't come up, so we'll be transplanting some plants from 1 cell, moving them to another today, and thinning some of the more robust looking cells there. Okay, let's take a little walk to the other side here. You can see my fan is going. I think. Is it moving? Yep. It oscillates and blows air at the seedlings over here. And then I bump that fan from each side of the studio, like it runs right here during the day and then it runs on the other seedlings during the night. I need to just get another fan so I don't have to do that anymore. Let's start over here with the Lisianthus. It will look like there is absolutely nothing going on because the seedlings are so incredibly tiny, but we've got 6 different varieties. So each row lengthwise is a variety. And if we get in here close, let me see if I can get it to focus. See those little green things coming up? They are coming. Most every cell, if you look really close, has some little green peeking through. They're just so incredibly slow. But that's how my experience has been with Lisianthus, so that's kind of what I expect to see. I don't grow these with any kind of heat mat. That might speed things up a little bit, but I figure we started early enough. We'll have plenty of time to get them up and looking good. Below the Lisianthus, we have 2 trays. This one has 2 varieties in it. The front half is baby blue eucalyptus. So what is that? 12 cells, 11 of them came up. So we're gonna have to transplant a baby into that empty cell, but you can see the plants there looking really good. In the back, we have the sweet purple with white bicolor dianthus. Those are doing great. A little faster growing than our eucalyptus. And then over here we have Southern Charm Verbascum. Pretty good germination. This one was planted clearly way after the other Verbascum that we have going. There are a few cells that don't have seedlings, but I'm being patient because like I can see a little peak of green in here. It's barely coming, so we'll wait and see what happens. And that's why I don't thin until the plants get quite a bit bigger, so that I can take an extra out of a different cell and pop it into one that's empty. However, I don't think I had very many extras. I think I was planting like 1 seed per cell because I didn't have enough to fill up this whole tray with 2 seeds per cell. That's just the way it goes. African violets are all hanging in there, doing really good. I've been monitoring their progress. And then right up here, I wanted to show you the succulents that we put all the leaves in here after one of our projects. Look at this. Look at how beautiful that is. They're all starting to root, form new little babies. Look at those roots. Amazing. And I think even if they don't have plants started, most of them have roots on them. Yeah. So we'll see little babies come out here pretty quick. Look at that. There's 3 on that one. I mist these once a day. In fact, let's just go ahead and done. Okay, so now this grow light right here. We've got 12 trays. This first one has Tango Agastaki. Every single cell is up. The next little section is Louisia, which is not up yet, but I think it takes quite a long time to germinate. We've got Veronica Pink Shades, which, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of the 8 cells are up. I know you can hardly see. There's actually some coming up back in here. I don't see anything in that cell yet. This is my saddest tray right here. This is the Pacific Giant Delphinium. There are only 4 cells out of this entire tray that have germinated, so I'm going to reseed this one because look at my other Delphiniums. Black Knight, planted the same day. Something's going on there with that seed. Treated the same way. User error, maybe. Seed's bad, possibly. I don't know. And then this tray here, Black-Eyed Susans. Doing great. Need to be thinned. Little closer up look at the Black Knight Delphiniums here. Look how beautiful those are. Next shelf, we have all of our foxglove, which the seedlings are tiny, but they're completely all up. Camelot cream on this side, so these are the 2 trays. Sugar plum foxglove, a little heavy-handed with those, and with the apricot. Apricot came up the fastest. And then the lowest shelf here, we have our 2 trays of Eryngium. This is blue glitter, and this one is steel blue. Looking so much better than the first time I tried to grow Eryngium. I still got some plants, but these look so much healthier. And then right here we have Echinacea in the back, the Prima Donna White. Those took quite a long time to germinate, but they're all coming up. Every single cell is up. The geraniums here sprung up in like 2 days. Geraniums are so easy. Look at how cute the leaves are. Look at the first true leaf. So today we're going to be taking, if there's a double, which there's 3 cells where 2 came up, I'm gonna dig those 3 out and pot those out because I want all of those geraniums. And then this last tray is the other tray of Echinacea here. And we've had kind of spotty luck with this tray. The mellow yellows, pretty much every cell except for 1 is up. Green twister, maybe a little over half. And then double decker, we only have 1, 2, 3, 4. Is that one coming up yet? 5, I see 5. So we'll just give this more time. I think they're just taking a while. I'm really happy with how things are going so far. I think for most of the trays, other than that tray of delphiniums, I think we'll have pretty good overall success with germination. I just need to give a few varieties some time. And most things, once they germinate and get their feet underneath them, get a little bit of a root system, they start to grow pretty fast after that point for most varieties. So I think we'll be ready in a few weeks. You know, come March, I think we'll be ready to pop those up and move them out to the greenhouse. But now I'll show you the fertilizer and insect control I've been using in here. I've been fertilizing the more established seedlings, anything that has its first true leaf. I do half strength grow fertilizer. So you shake it up. It's an organic, so it's really, really important to shake it up because it forms like kind of a sediment at the bottom. So you want to get everything suspended in there. And then I use this itty bitty watering can because it has a nice slender tip there. Makes it easier to control where the water goes, but you don't squeeze the bottle. You just pour in 1 dose. That's it. And then I've got my larger watering can right here. It typically has more water in it, but I'll put my fertilizer in first and then I'll fill up this one with water and it gets it all nice and mixed. I don't have to use anything. In this case, I'll put something in there and mix it up, but that's it. Once a week with this. In terms of insect pressure in here, it hasn't been horrible. I just noticed aphids on our pepper plants and that's it. I inspected everything else, no other aphids on any of my other houseplants or anything. So a little bit of aphids and a tiny bit of fungus gnats, which I've been dealing with for a while. I think they came in on some moss. Like that is my best guess. Usually I can keep fungus gnats under control if I notice them early enough with these sticky traps. And this is how they work. You can get these at your garden center or on Amazon. You just peel this off, stick it down in your plant like this. And the fungus gnats are attracted to them and they just go get themselves all stuck on there and then they die. I prefer that approach because that means that I don't have to spray anything. And most of the time, if I get on top of it early enough, I take care of the problem pretty quickly that way. You don't want it to become a huge infestation because if that happens, they're incredibly hard to eradicate and they're not good for your seedlings. They can cause some big problems. So sticky traps first. If it becomes a bigger problem, you can use like a bio-neem. You can use this right here. In fact, when I sprayed for aphids, I just went ahead, since I do still notice a few little gnats flying around, I sprayed the surface on everything that has moss in here. I should just move it all out. Like I top dressed some amaryllis with moss and that's just like, I don't know where else they would have come from. I think this was the culprit right here. So I put some of this like Spanish moss on the top because that's all I had at the time, but look at the sticky trap in here. Look at those fungus gnats. Like this is my biggest problem plant in the place. I should take it out of here probably, but I think I'm actually getting on top of it. This is like a week's worth of fungus gnats. That's not bad. You can isolate plants. Like if you know you have a plant that's particularly bad or covered with something specific, definitely separate it from the herd if you have a spot where you can put it where it will be safe. I don't really have a spot where I can put this one, surprisingly enough. Like I don't really have an area I want to put it that's the right temperature. There are plants everywhere in our house, in the greenhouse, in here. So I think I've got the problem pretty much under control. And that's the thing. I just have to stay vigilant, keep my eye out, and then hopefully nothing will ever become a problem. Last year I had 0 bug issues in here. No fungus gnats, no aphids, nothing. Every year is a little different. Now I want to do a little bit of maintenance. I'm going to start with the geraniums, digging out the extras and potting them up. Okay, so I've got everything I need to repot these 3 geraniums. I have this tiny little itty bitty shovel. Gardener Supply sent this out to me a long time ago and it has been so useful for stuff like this. I've got a potting mix. This is the organic potting mix right here. So I'm potting them from their seed starting mix up to regular potting mix. I'm still going to pre-moisten the soil just a little bit because I think it will help everything settle in around the roots of these geraniums. So I'm going to just put a little bit of water in here and mix it up. And we should be ready to roll. Okay, so soil is looking good. It's got a slight bit of moisture in it, but there's no water like dripping from my hand when I squeeze on the soil. So I'm going to fill up these 3 little pots, so the ones we're going to use. I'm going to make a complete mess all over. Usually I try to have some kind of tray, but I didn't have it organized today. I lightly press the soil down just to make sure there's no air pockets down in those down in the container, and then create a little center well for each one of these geraniums. So I'm just going to take my little trowel. I'm going to get in here as gently as I possibly can and remove one of these. It's always like a little bit of a tender process. Oh my, it already has a really decent root system. Look at that already. Coze it down in its new home. Seedlings are pretty resilient, more resilient than I used to think. So they should do okay. And I don't want to compact the soil too much around each one of the root balls, but that looks really good. Look how sweet that is. Okay, let's do the rest of them. Actually, I'm going to pop a little bit of extra soil down into the hole I just created. Okay, next one is on this corner here. So gently separate those. That shovel just helps me kind of like guide it right down into its new home. It's awesome. Okay, there's number 2, all done. Let's fill this little hole back up. Okay, and third one. These are planted the closest together. Oh, got it. You know, most seedlings I do not take the time to do this with other than to fill empty cells, but geraniums, they're expensive to buy, they're beautiful, and I just feel like it's worth it for some things to go ahead and separate them and pot them up separately. I'm gonna take my water, give them a little bit, and then we'll get them situated underneath the grow light again. And this is the water I just added a little bit of fertilizer to. So that should help them out a bit, just like that. And I'm gonna go ahead and water all the cells that I just took these out of just to settle everything back in around the existing plants. Okay, geraniums are done. Next, we have all of our veggies. I'm gonna use 4-inch containers for this, just leftover ones from last year from annuals. Okay, here's my tray. This one houses 12 4-inch containers. I think I need 14, so I'll do this full tray and then 2 extra 4-inch containers. These housed pansies last spring, so I've had these for about a year sitting empty. You'll notice there's a tiny bit of dirt around the edges. You should clean and disinfect any container you're using for another project. I typically, like full disclosure, don't do that usually unless I know something has had a bug issue. So like in this case, putting peppers that I know have had an aphid issue, when I get ready to reuse these, I will definitely wash them before I use them for something else. Anyway, that said, we're just gonna basically do the same thing. I'm gonna fill these up with soil, the regular potting mix, and then we're just going to lift them out of the container and repot. I will be burying the tomatoes a little bit deeper in the container than they are right now so that they can form new roots up their stems and be a little bit of a stronger plant. But it's just fun to have something growing. I know it's like way early for stuff like this. Now let me get all these filled. Let's see, I've got 2, 4, 6, 2, 4, 6. Okay, I don't want to fill those yet. Okay, I'm gonna do peppers first. This is a baby bell right here. Yeah, I don't see any living aphids on these anymore. That's so good. Next are the Lemondrop hot peppers. These could stay in the tray for a little bit longer. They're so small, but since we're in the mode, we're just gonna go ahead and pop them up a size here. I think this will be really good for the plants too, because you can see how these are a little bit weaker. And I don't know if I mentioned during the tour of the seedlings, but I didn't turn on my oscillating fan when these were, until they were about, I don't know, 4 inches tall or so. I just kind of forgot about it. And when they're all planted so closely together, especially the ones in the middle, don't get as much air, so they don't beef up as much because they're just not having to move around and resist that wind. So anyway, I think this will be really good for them because now they have all this space around them to get bigger. I'm gonna do the tomatoes next. I need to mix up a little bit more soil for that, I think. So for the tomatoes, like I said, I'm going to be popping these further down. Whoa, look at that root system. I'm gonna be potting these further down in the container so that I can get a little soil up over the stem so that it can create new roots, because it will create roots all along its main stem there. So I'll put the tiniest bit of soil at the bottom. I'm gonna stick the whole thing down in there. Gosh, I'm so happy that the root systems look so good. And then we're just going to fill in the rest of the way with soil. This is one of the Campari tomatoes. It smells good. That tomato smell, tomato plant smell. Okay, I'm going to repeat for the rest of them. Okay, these all look really good. I'm gonna water them all in and then put them back underneath the grow light. This is a time too where you'll see maybe some soil settling, and you can add more soil at this point too, if you need to. And then, like I said, I'm going to be spraying the peppers again next week with the spray I just showed you. Keep the aphid pressure down. Hopefully we don't have any more issues in here. Sometimes stuff just crops up on you though, and you just kind of don't notice it until it's a little bit of a problem. Okay, gonna move these and pot up the cucumbers. Kind of excited to see what the root system looks like on this bigger one. Oh yeah, look at that. Look at how beautiful that is. And oh my goodness, it's got cucumbers on it. What? Can you see those? There are 3 little baby cucumbers on this plant. Oh, I hope I didn't just wreck its little growth cycle. Okay, we gotta tuck it in and get it fertilized. That is so exciting. Those are the tiniest cucumbers I have ever seen. Can you believe that? Cucumber in January. Okay, second one. This one I don't expect to see a lot of roots on at all. Smaller root system, but healthy. Okay, a little fertilizer. And back under the grow lights. Oh, those look much happier. Just everyone being in their own container. Okay, so now we're going to kind of tackle this flat of Verbascum, because these seedlings are old enough to where I feel like I can thin most of them, most of the cells, the ones that have the most in them. But first I want to determine if there are any cells, which I know there are a couple, that don't have any plants growing. This one right here, these look kind of poor, like they maybe dried out. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull those. And so this cell, and this cell, 3 of the cells need to have transplants put in them. So I'm essentially doing the same thing, just digging one out and popping it in the empty cell. So I'm going to dig one out of this cell right here. I try to find ones that are far enough apart from each other where I feel like I'm not going to disrupt the root system. So I'm going to take my shovel in here, kind of cut between the plants, and extract one of these. Like that. This one's fine. So we'll come over to this cell here and pop it in. That way we are making the most out of every square inch of our tray and our grow lights. Okay, let's fill these 2 right here. I'm gonna need a little extra to fill in the blank. 2. Verbascum is actually gonna be a first for me. I've never grown it before. And never started it from seed, so the whole thing is an experiment for me. Okay, so in this cell, I'm gonna go ahead and take this one. Okay, so for this cell, I'm gonna take this one right here. So we've got 2 really strong plants there. So I'll put my shovel in between, kind of cut a little bit, and draw that one out. And then we just place it right down in that cell. The more you do it, the more comfortable you get doing it, especially when you see that most of the seedlings don't even skip a beat being moved like that. This one looks so small. I might just go ahead and add an extra one in there too. This one's pretty thick here, so I'm gonna take this out. Okay. So the transplanting is done. So now, like I said, I'm gonna go through these more thickly planted ones and just kind of thin out. So like in this one, I've got 2 pretty strong looking seedlings. I'm gonna take one out And instead of pulling, I just cut with my snips. That way I don't disrupt root systems if at all possible. In this one, so we just want to get it down to 1 or 2 at this stage. Just clip out the smaller ones. I know this is a hard process for some of you guys. I'm so used to it. It's just part of the process. I mean, it would take a tremendous amount of time, grow light space, and just space in general if we were to separate all of these and try to grow every single one of them on. It's just not possible. Okay. I think that's all I'm going to do to thin today. Some of the cells I left 2 pretty strong ones, and I'll give them another week or 2, and then I'll thin them down to 1. And it's just super important to thin your seedlings, because then, like with the tomatoes, I needed to spread those out so that they can get proper airflow and so they can develop properly and they can get enough light around, you know, each one of those plants so that they stay really healthy. So it's just one of those things that you kind of have to plan on. Even if you're meticulous about seeding, some seeds are so small that it's hard to get just 1 or 2 seeds per cell. So it just happens that sometimes you have a really thick tray. So the last tray I want to tackle today are the delphiniums that didn't come up. I'm going to go ahead and reseed those. So I'm going to grab that tray quick. Okay, so here's what we've got. 4 cells. I think we already determined that. 4 cells of this variety came up, while all the rest of the different variety, and that were a different brand too, all the rest of those came up. So I do have more from the same packet of seeds. I don't know. I'm just going to seed really heavy and hope that they come up. Now we need to plant these 1/8 of an inch deep, so I'm just going to make a tiny little well here in each one of these that doesn't have one. And I'm just going to try to divide the remaining, whatever's remaining in here, there's quite a number of seeds, between all these empty cells. Oh, there's 5. There is 1 seedling in that one. Probably still drop some seeds in there. Okay, so this is what we've got left. Here's hoping. These are going to all come up. I love delphiniums so much. Okay, wish me luck. Moving on to our next project is hand-pollinating the navel orange, which looks amazing. We already took a look at it. I have been hand-pollinating every day since the flowers started to open. We kind of need to act like we are nature when you're keeping citrus inside, which we have to keep them inside, otherwise they would freeze. Our winters are too harsh, but there are no pollinators or wind or anything like that to get our pollination done. And in order to have really good fruit set, even though citrus are mostly self-fruitful, when they are pollinated, they will set way more fruit for you. So with our flower, we have both male and female parts. So on the outer ring here, where you see kind of the little, I don't know, thicker spots at the end, those are called anthers, and that's what has the pollen. That's the male part of the flower. In the interior here, if you take a look on the inside, there's a thicker kind of stem coming out that has a sticky end. That's called a pistil. That's the female part, and the end is called a stigma. So we have to make sure that pollen from the anthers gets to the stigma. So we're going to act like we are a pollinator, and you come along and you kind of just move your Q-tip along the anthers, picking up some pollen, and then you make sure it touches the stigma. And we just move from flower to flower, just kind of being the pollinator here. And you want to make sure to monitor the plant, and any flowers that open up new every day, you want to make sure that some pollen makes it to the stigma of those flowers. And really any flower that's opened up fully that still has a sticky looking stigma still, you can go ahead and pollinate them more than one time. It's fine. I go through, because this plant is so small that it just takes me a few minutes every day just to run in and do this quick. All right, guys, I think that is all I'm going to tackle for today. I will make the daffodil arrangement another day. We're just running out of time, but I really wanted to make sure to give you an update on how all the seedlings are doing, and I'm going to try to do that on an every couple of week basis, probably. Whenever I notice anything like significantly different, I'll give you an update so you can see what we're dealing with. And if I have any more issues with bugs and stuff like that, I'll be sure to share that with you as well, in case you're dealing with the same thing. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you in the next video. Bye.